He missed it.
You didn't know?
Yeah, I did. I was, she just came
I've
up.
been teaching in America.
Get it out of there.
Should have stayed on your back. Wait. That's not gonna work. I have to have my glasses.
I'm so bad.
I don't have to.
These are our breakfast. Maybe I have 14,000. Who was down here? Okay, one more time, I promise. Sure.
It's 9 o'clock and I'm calling the meeting to order. Monique, do we have a quorum?
Yes, ma'am, we do have a quorum.
Thank you. Shall we stand for? Once again, I forgot to find somebody, so we're going to do a minute of silence. Thank you.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor and Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one nation, indivisible.
Clearly, we haven't learned it yet.
I didn't know. Yeah, well,
Dan, are you ready for the minutes?
I would make a motion that the minutes for the January 20th board meeting as submitted be approved.
Did I hear a second from Ann? Thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay.
I would note that there are some corrections that need to be made.
Are there simple or are they major?
Yes, they're just mostly just grammar and punctuation and not substance, just format.
I'll let you fight that with Dan. She said there were a few grammar and punctuation.
I don't get hung up on that too much with these. It's content I mainly look at. If I notice something obvious, I'll grab it. So I don't doubt it. It's probably-
Okay. We'll let you get together after the meeting.
I
Thanks.
didn't excel in English.
As did we all. Okay. Then is there a secretary's report?
Yeah, in the secretary's report, there isn't a lot. We did get an extensive, lengthy email from Wally Jones regarding the Commissioner Court request. And mainly what he's pointing out is, I believe, was that we were not authorized to do that. In fact, we are authorized because the law does state the entity that is in, has the responsibility for the maintenance and control of the roads is the one to apply. And we have a signed agreement with MUD, and we always hear MUD owns the roads. Well, that's right, but we do have a signed agreement dated December 21st, 2013, that puts the responsibility of control and maintenance of the roads on the association. So we are the entity to do that. Beyond that, I would like to take this opportunity to update you on the election process that's going forward. The ballots were all out and mailed, delivered to the post office at 3 p.m. The photo taken. They were delivered there at 3 p.m. with a photo taken on February 7th. And there was 1,700 and I think 39 or 59, 39 sent out. I talked to the election auditor and they're receiving them. Everything is going fine. They have no questions. There's no problems so far. We have heard from a number of members that have multiple memberships that they didn't get all of their ballots. But the post office is not delivering them all together at the same time. They're evidently coming in batches. And most of those people I've talked to that didn't get them then, a few days or a week later, did get their additional ballots. So once we deliver them to the post office, we have no control. And I'll mention one member also pointed out how they had a check coming from Fort Worth and it got lost like for 3 weeks or a month before they got it. Last fall, our tax statements were sent out. My neighbor got his tax statement. I didn't get mine for almost a month later. I went down and talked to them. They mailed them all at the same time. So if there's a delay in getting some of your ballots, look to the post office, the Postal Service. But the committees that work, the Search and Certification Committee, did a tremendous amount of work in folding all the materials, affixing labels to the back of the ballot that needed to be done. And the mailing committee that I worked with, Judy Winchell headed the Search and Certification Committee. The mailing committee I worked with was fantastic. They just the ladies just charged forward and took over, and they did one hell of a job. They got it done, all set, and delivered to the post office at 3 o'clock. So I'd like to thank all those committee members. If any of them are here today, please stand up. No one's...
There were some men there that
There was Tom Simon was on the mailing committee.
somebody else.
Yeah. Thank you. Steve Diller was on the Search and Certification Committee. Jennifer
We do have
Link,
a report from them later on before we
you do.
before we disband them.
I'm not disbanding, I'm
No,
trying
I
to
said-
acknowledge them and thank them for their hard
Understand
work.
what I'm saying? We do
They did a
We
great
do
job.
have a place where they're going to report again, so you can leave some of it up in the air.
Okay. You want me to retract anything? All right. Thank you all very much.
The treasurer's report.
Good morning. The actual bank balances as of Wednesday, February 14th, 2018. The Del Rio Bank's Texas Community Credit Card, $74,650.40. Texas Community Checking, $58,152.25. Texas Community Money Market, $2,564.64. Brackettville Bank and Trust, General Fund, $83,499.87. Payroll, $40,993.59. Restricted Fund, $411,071.24. Los Morris, $6,485.62, subtotal of $677,417.61. Fort Clark Historical Building Preservation Fund, $18,645.53. Fort Clark Hail Damage Repair Fund, $24,205.81. Grand total of $720,268.95. I'd also like to note that the Preservation Fund, they were able to get together with our CPA to determine how much of the restricted fund was actually the dedicated $1 per month. And it turned out that the total collected from July 1st, 2017 to January 1st, 2018 was $13,840.75. Some payments were made from those, resulting in a current total of $7,111.12 in the restricted fund designated for preservation. Combine that with the amount that's in the actual committee fund itself, gives them a working total of $25,756.65. Okay. Bank transfers. January 2018 estimated Bank and Trust Los Morris, 0 operating expense. Texas Community Checking, $70,000 operating expense. Bank and Trust Payroll, $64,000. Bank and Trust Restricted Fund, 0 for operating expense for an estimated total of $134,000. The January 2018 actual was to Bank and Trust Los Morris, 0 for operating expense. Texas Community Checking, $89,590.75 for operating expense. Bank and Trust Payroll, $95,500. And for Bank and Trust Restricted, 0 for operating expense. I should note that there was, because we made a payroll transfer on January 31st, there was a third pay period in the month. And that accounted for an increase of the $31,500. But I have to ask Monique, there's a Texas Community Checking difference of the estimated between $64,000 and $89,590.75. Was that just things coming in that weren't, expenses that came in that weren't necessarily anticipated for January? Okay, February 2017, actual, Bank and Trust Los Morris, 0 operating expense. Texas Community Checking, $83,403.22 operating expense. Bank and Trust Payroll, $63,000. Bank and Trust Restricted, 0 operating expense for a February 2017 actual of $146,403.22. February 2018 estimated to Bank and Trust Los Morris, 0 for operating expense. Texas Community Checking, $85,000 for operating expense. Bank and Trust Payroll, $64,000. Bank and Trust Restricted, $0 for operating expense for an estimated of $149,000. That concludes the transfer report. I move that we approve the bank transfers as read.
Second.
Any discussion there? All in favor? Approved. Oops. Thank you. Got a keeper. Executive officers report, please.
Yes, ma'am. I have provided to you a little bit of a budget analysis that I did last night. We received our financials yesterday, and I didn't have much time to review them, or to even talk to the accountant. But I did prepare what I could in the way of an analysis. Let me point out a few things. If you would turn to that budget analysis that I gave to you. Using the figures that he has provided, we're showing that the revenue is some $85,000 more than was anticipated. I frankly think that's understated. I think that we have generated more revenue than that. I would point to the common property assessment there in number 300022. That was reported as no change from 1 month to the next, when in fact I know that there was. The late fee, if you would look to that, 30020, the late fee charges, those late fee charges tripled from 1 month to the next. And you can't triple your late fee collection and not your collection. So we have some issues there that I'm going to have to discuss with him. I think that the total revenue is going to be substantially more than just $85,000 over budget. And with respect to the expenses, you'll note on my budget analysis that perhaps there was some $10,000 or $11,000 that we are under budget. I think we're under budget much more than that. I point first of all to the building maintenance and repair item, 430,600. There's a $13,838 expense. We haven't done that much building maintenance, so I'm going to have to discuss that with them. The health insurance also, if you look on the second page, health insurance under 240140, he apparently is having some issue with that. On your financials, he lists health insurance in 2 categories, and the 2 of them combined does not equate to what we have actually spent. All of this is to say that we continue to have difficulties with the accounting, and but it is slowly but surely getting hammered out.
Do we think that he's going to eventually, it's been well over a year.
I'm confident that he will. And the reason I'm confident is because of our auditor, who has been now working very closely, making the adjustments that need to be made. I think we're going to come out with a pretty clean audit, and I think that as a result of that, the adjustments being made, then the CPA is going to be able to finally get this corrected. But there's still systemic glitches that we're dealing with.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the total problem here.
I understand what you're saying, but
What I'm saying is I think we
know.
should look for a new one.
I know what you're saying.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear on that.
I will also tell you that Mr. Dave Barfoot is continuing to work on the programming. That's not an easy job, and it's going to be a long time. It just doesn't get done overnight. It's very complicated. We've been meeting with him to explain to him the functionality of the system, which is very, very useful information for him. I just can't put it in a time frame. Board, we will need to renew our letters of credit at the next month's meeting. They expire at the end of March, so that's something that we will need to touch base with the TCEQ and get the final figures on that and present those letters to you. On the lighter side, there's going to be not this Sunday, not tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow, there's going to be a Creekside patio event. We're going to have two young people who are very, very talented musically, and they will be coming to entertain us. Everyone will be invited. There's going to be a little $5 cover charge, but there'll be heavy hors d'oeuvres and very pleasant music from these two young people. This is at the restaurant there at the Pro Shop. We're calling it the Creekside Patio. And that is at, do you know what time that is? I didn't mark it down. Is it 4:30? I think it's 4:30 in the afternoon. Look for the dispatch. It has a flyer there for you.
What date was that?
Whatever a week from tomorrow is. A week from tomorrow?
That's a Sunday?
Yeah, Sunday afternoon.
25th.
25th. Very, very soon, we're gonna have the Wi-Fi system set up at the RV park. People will be allowed, I think it's 1 megabyte of free bandwidth, and then they'll have the opportunity to purchase more. More good news on the golf course. We're laying asphalt. This is a little shared project that we had going with the golf committee. The fort purchased half of the asphalt that was needed, and the golf committee is purchasing the other half, and it's going down and it's being laid down on the golf paths, and that should be smooth sailing from there on.
Who's laying it down?
The golf staff, golf maintenance staff. Domingo and others, yeah. And just briefly, a little public service announcement. There is a Meet the Candidates meeting. This is for our local government, our county offices. Meet the Candidates Forum at the high school auditorium on this Monday at 6:30 to 8:30. So everyone who wishes to meet the candidates can do so there. And that's about all I have.
That's more than our candidates, I mean.
Not our board candidates.
Right, so this is, explain who's going to be there.
Yes, it'll be those candidates for the county judge, for the commissioners, for the county district clerk, and the treasurer, and the justice of the peace. I think I named them all. And school board.
And that was the 26th,
That's Monday, day after tomorrow.
day after tomorrow, the 18th, sorry. Never had one of those yet, I think. Free at last. Okay, moving to the committee reports. Airport,
Hi, good morning. Oh, I don't know if this is on.
It's not working, sorry.
Okay,
You'll have to
no
speak
worries.
really loud or we can.
You could
have
use
the-
this mic, I'm sure.
Mr. Sullivan's microphone.
That one doesn't
Oh, well, you could use
It's
it
okay,
anyway.
I'm pretty loud. Well, from the airport committee, I just wanted to give an update on the number of aircraft and pilots that we have as of today. We have 7 aircraft, 7 pilots, 5 radio control aircraft operators as of now. We've got 2 aircraft that are out for maintenance and hopefully they'll be back soon. As far as visitors, in the past month, we had 1 guest of a member of the fort. We have 1 Customs and Border Patrol helicopter, and we have 1 foreign guest pilot from England who's currently staying at the RV park that we were excited to welcome. For airfield maintenance, the hangar doors are being repaired. As Mr. Lark briefed a while back, that was the plan for those. They're 90% complete. The project was fully funded by a private donation from Mr. Lark. After complete, the doors will be able to open freely without having any issues, so this is very good for safety. As far as completed projects, you'll notice I'm wearing a really awesome hat. The airport committee is excited to introduce our Fort Clark Springs airport hats. They feature custom wings showing the Brackettville, Texas place marker that's on our Fort Clark Springs logo, and have our airfield designator 74TX. These will be on sale at our open house, which I'll talk about in a minute, for $20. And I do have a few hats with me today if anyone's interested in adding to your hat collection. We also have in the works an airport t-shirt that's going to feature the same wings on the front, and then on the back it'll feature the hangar graphic that was used in the Fort Clark Days shirt last year. And it'll also include what squadrons were actually assigned to the airfield during its heyday. So we'll have information on that when we get them. Upcoming on Saturday next week, the 24th, the Historical Society is featuring a historic lesson on the airfield. And the lesson starts at 10, and it is at the Palisado building. And the lesson will answer the question, I wonder whatever happened at the historic Fort Clark airfield. So that will be really exciting. There's going to be never seen before images that will be presented, as well as stories from incidents and crashes that occurred on the airfield. And again,
Who's going to do that?
it's hosted by the Historical Society. Mrs. Miner will be the
Mainliner.
And then we do have our airport open house. The next one is going to be March 24th from 9 a.m. to noon. This event is open to all residents and members of Fort Clark Springs. Please come see the new doors, as well as a historic area that we're going to be erecting inside of the hangar that's going to feature some of the images that are going to be presented next week, as well as talk about some of the history of the airfield, so that it's in one nice historic area of the hangar. Airplanes are going to be on static display, and pilots will be available to answer any questions on aircraft, RC flying, or the airfield as well. And we're going to have one dedicated golf cart to transport those with mobility challenges around the static aircraft.
Thank you.
Additionally, the airport committee has invited Customs and Border Patrol to join us. They will be bringing a helicopter for static display and will be on hand to talk about their mission, as well as talk about what causes them to have to fly so low above homes. We've had a few phone calls asking why they do that, so we just asked them if they would be willing to come out and talk about that. So they'll be on hand to do that. With each open house that we are hosting from the airport committee, we're hoping to build it little by little, and that's why we've invited the helicopter, and we want to feature things going on with the actual hangar itself. Our goal is to host 2 a year, one in the spring and one in the fall. And then we have a spring fly-in the weekend of April 20th. This is an event for pilots. And so what we wanted to make sure is that we get the information out that residents are going to see more aircraft activity that weekend. I've got rooms on hold at the Fort Motel for guests that are going to want to use the motel. And as of today, we've got 10 confirmed pilots attending and 89 that are interested. This is a weather-dependent event, so if the weather's bad, planes can't fly. We're hopeful for good weather in the spring. But does anyone have any questions for me?
What was the date of your flying?
It's the weekend of April 20th.
You've had a board meeting.
Have you considered what happens if you are elected to the board and
What do you mean?
there's a board meeting that day?
Ma'am, the airport committee is more than just one person, so there's plenty of people out there to welcome the guests.
Okay, I'm just making sure that you know.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anything else? Any quick questions? Okay. Architectural committee, I should say, Sharon, you're here, but
Yeah.
it was wonderful that they submitted, y'all submitted the minutes from the meetings that you did. It made it much easier to understand. But if you have something, we'd like to hear it.
Just an update on what we've done over the past month. We've approved 11 permits. We tabled 3 for lack of information. And we've been working on something that we're going to submit to the board on a simplification of the applications for work. Quite often the girls give the applicants the wrong form, and we want to try to combine the two into one so that there's no confusion when it comes to us. You know, is it repair and replace? Is it new? Is it like new materials? So that's kind of what we've been putting our heads together doing lately. We've issued a couple of fines to people that had work done without a permit. And we're really working hard implementing that because people got to stop doing that. They think it's okay. You know, well, we're just going over the old stuff. We didn't, you know, you still have to have a permit regardless. So that's kind of pretty much it. 2 other things that we tabled last week. They're doing work on the old guardhouse museum, and they're putting a new ramp. And we tabled the permit to make sure that the measurements on the ramp were ADA approved. And the other one is they're putting a storage building behind the Sutler store. And when they submitted the application, they did not give plot lines, nothing. And so it got taken for that. Very simple. And that's it.
Even the Historical Society has to comply.
Exactly.
All right.
Which Russell's doing the work, and I'm sure he knows that it wasn't on the application, so we had to table it.
He doesn't do paperwork.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's right. That's, yeah. We need to say that to them. No, we've got a Sharon, and the only member we have here is Sharon, isn't it?
And that's usually all that she'll know.
So if we need to talk to them as a whole, then we need to show up at their meetings, as far as I can tell. Did you have something you needed to say today?
Just that.
Go ahead.
The Architectural Committee, if you review the charter that you have within our declaration, confines the authority of the committee to enforcing the CC&Rs in each unit, and specifically exempts all common property and common grounds from the authority of the Architectural Committee. And of course, the Sutler store and the museum and all that is common grounds, so that does not fall under the Architectural Committee's authority.
And I'm still new at all this, so I don't know.
Okay,
anything about this.
No,
Once again,
this is only meant
he's not
as a
talking
point of...
to you.
Could I please
I'm
finish?
sorry.
I know.
This is only meant as information, for your information. It's not meant as any kind of a reprimand or anything like that. We appreciate your hard work. It's one of the toughest committees there is to be on, and we do appreciate that. But the common ground and common areas has to be dealt with through the board. And thank you so much, Sharon.
Oh, you're right. Thank you.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I was telling her you were not talking to her. I apologize. The Equine Club,
Good morning. Can I stay here?
Apparently you can. We don't.
unless you can't be heard, then we'll have you have a microphone.
Are you kidding? Everybody can hear me.
I said that the last one. The Equine Committee has recently completed the task of revising the bylaws, the Horse Club Constitution, and our application for new members. We have updated a waiting list of individuals who are interested in bringing horses into Fort Clark Springs. These documents were turned into the administrative office in early February for the board's and Mr. Lawrence's review. The committee has put a great deal of time discussing each and every article, including every word of those articles of the bylaws, and hope that this is reflected in the document we turned in. We respectfully wait for your suggestions, comments, etc., to get a final approval of this document. We're continuing to work on the barn, spray and paint the aisle of the barn. The barn office has been scrubbed and cleaned so that we now have a new place to meet for our quarterly meetings. We continue to make improvements to the building and the grounds. An original design drawing of the barn and the corral areas and the buildings next door, which are now homes, was also a stable. We have found this in the back, on the back side of a cupboard. We got all excited. It's kind of chewed up a little bit, but 95% of it's there. And that building was built in 1939, so it's old. And we took the time to unroll it carefully, and we have mounted it under plastic, a frame, and have it up in the office. And even Philip's interested in coming over to see it. So we're trying to do the good stuff. Okay. Horse Club members are all working very hard to encourage harmony and happiness between our members. We do have a question for Mr. Lawrence, and that's, Carolyn was asking, that she's our treasurer, secretary, if the administrative office needs copies of insurance and Coggins paperwork on an annual basis, or will our files, where she files all that, would that suffice? I don't know. So you need to respond to that at some point. Finally, with regard to our Fort Clark Springs Horse Club, please keep this in mind. Here on the fort, right now, the Horse Club is the past coming to be part of the present. Please help us to maintain a future. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Yeah. The Equine Club and the Horse Club are two different.
Correct. We have an equine committee.
Okay, so are you reporting as the Equine Committee?
I am.
Okay. Then are you recommending as the Equine Committee that the board approve the Constitution and bylaws?
That we submitted?
Yes.
We're hoping you will.
Were those written by the Equine Committee or by the...
The Equine Committee, and then we met as a group with the Horse Club and voted on them.
Okay. I still have some questions. I think maybe we need to hold off on approving those. Does anyone else have a question on the Constitution and bylaws, or am I the only holdup?
No, I have questions also.
Okay. I think what we'll do is read these and get the questions to the Equine Committee,
Okay.
and it'll make it easier for you to get it approved at the next meeting, I think.
Well, if you get us the questions, the Equine Committee will meet again and we'll discuss what needs to be discussed and hopefully get you the answers you're looking for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Finance Advisory Committee, is there a report?
We met on February 9th. We were missing one member, but we had a very long discussion. We did, again, because of questions that have come up from the board, we did discuss again the purpose of the committee, and the committee states fully they are not a planning committee, that they need to know where we're going to advise on finance. We discussed the topic that somehow got brought up about luxury unit, that it was part of their recommendations that really haven't even discussed yet, and they are just simply reminding us that they have no authority to do anything. All they're going to do is make suggestions to the board, and the board takes it from there. We discussed the use of a loan versus special assessments. Their feeling is that the borrowing limit is equal to the amount paid yearly to the restricted fund without using the fund itself. There's approximately $30,750 available each month. They discussed whether it's necessary for yearly assessments, and the committee also agreed that at some point, if we have to have some things done, then the board should consider whether an assessment is due or should be voted on that year, or should be assessed that year. They also agree that debt is financially appropriate for capital projects only. They also had an interesting suggestion. We have 4 major revenue contributors that do not involve assessments as far as revenue. The golf course, obviously, the RV park, the motel, and the golf and the hunt. Their suggestion was that when we look at whether assessments are being used to cover deficits for these 4 entities, that they be lumped together and all the expenses from all of them be compared to the revenue from all of them to see if there's truly a deficit for the group of them together. So that is something that we're going to discuss further, but it sounds like an idea that we can at least look at. Wouldn't be necessarily formalized in the budget, though it might be. It's merely to determine whether these 4 revenue-producing venues are actually operating at the loss by combining them. They also agree that there's a lot of work that needs to be done to both real property and equipment that should have been done over the last 20 years and hasn't, which is one reason that we're probably $250,000 behind in repairs to everything. That we need to invest in those things that we'll get a return on, which are those 4 items those 4 venues that I just mentioned. They also thought that using the patio at the golf course should be an excellent revenue venue. For all kinds of groups, and we have used that for wedding receptions in the past. They also recommended that we increase our marketing for all venues and all demographics, not just to the RV people, but to everyone. They also had another interesting suggestion. This is something we've talked about in the past. We have 6 bunkers, Richard? Is it 6? I can never remember. It's 4 or 6. We have 6 bunkers out there, and people have asked in the past whether we have a storage facility. Those 6 bunkers, not necessarily all of them, may be a source for storage with cleaning. They also may be a source for emergency protection for tornadoes, storms, whatever, with cleaning out. Some of them are being used for free by a couple of our groups here. Again, a source of revenue might be to rent storage space. And again, remember, these are just all ideas that they're suggesting to increase our revenue. Let's see. They talked about the possibility of using a key card entry for the adult center and the pool. For instance, in the adult center, using a key card entry on the door, say for instance, to the gym area and one to the main building, with all exit doors open for exit only, and having a key card. That way you could enter and exit the building from specific set times, and we would have a record of who's in there. We would not necessarily need an attendant. And if you became delinquent in your assessments, you would lose access to it. They are also considering the fact that delinquency should possibly bar you from certain privileges. Okay. The workshop date has been moved to February 26th. They are working on a time for that board. They're trying to cut the time down from 2 days to 1 day. So they aren't quite sure what time of the day they need to start on that, and I will give you that information as soon as I have it for Monday the 26th, which I believe everyone said they were able to attend. That is the end of my report.
Thank you. Golf committee? I remember why it's important that you come up here. The camera can't see you back there.
Good morning, Debbie Isaacs.
That one's not working.
Good morning, Debbie Isaacs. How are y'all? Well, it surprised me that our numbers were up on the golf course. Our actual financials do not show it, but the reason our financials do not show it is because a lot of Winter Texans are here and they pay their quarterly dues, so I don't keep those figures. But our actual, from last month, we were at 633 players on the course. I'm sorry, 476 in December. Members, 91 guests, 69 tournament, and 636 total. This month we were 633 members, 89 guests, 118 tournament, for a total of 840. So we were up in our numbers on the course. And like I say, our financials don't really show that, but I do not keep the quarterly and stuff on these books. We are really working on getting our Los Morris tournament together right now. We're trying to increase that. We're going to try to have a catered dinner. I've been talking with Carol Ann. She's given us a discount at the motel for people to come in and stay Friday and Saturday night, hoping to build that motel up. But right now, that's what we're concentrating on is our Los Morris tournament. This is a big fundraiser for the year from the golf course, and we actually, out of this proceeds, we pay 3 $500 scholarships to the Brackettville High School kids. The only thing they have to do is give us a little volunteer work to be eligible to do that. That's all I've got on the golf right now.
Are you doing preservation as well? Let's just move on to that then.
As you know, Garland Young has stepped down. Phyllis Giblin resigned a couple of months ago. We are in need of 2 full-time members right now. One of the members needs to come from community council, and one is a member at large. I guess y'all would be responsible for the member at large. But we do need 2 people. I did call a meeting as I was asked to do because I guess I'm fill-in vice president and treasurer of that committee. So I called a meeting. Bill Peake was the only one that showed up, and myself, and our board rep. What we do, the first thing we do when we go out and try to decide where to spend y'all's money and the money that is donated to us is we look at the Kenny County Historical. They do a yearly report of buildings to keep their tax breaks on these buildings, and we look at those. And within a 5-year period, we have to show that we're looking at those and maintaining those buildings for the board. So that's the first thing we do when we spend any money on the buildings. Other things, if it's a necessity, like the Historical Society, here a while back, it was leaning real bad. There was a big thing about, we spent the money to get that thing back upright and fixed. But we don't just randomly go pick stuff out. There's a method behind, there's a reason behind the method we do things. So, just so y'all know that. And I don't know how we ever got away from it, but all committees used to have to give
their minutes to the board. I'd like to start doing that again if we can. I know the board is wanting to revamp this committee some, and I've asked for some things to make this job easier as treasurer, because I was working out of 2 accounts, trying to keep 2 accounts because you don't have money in this one, you don't know when you're gonna get this money. So I've talked to Mr. Lawrence, and he's supposed to talk to the board about combining, so we've got figures, we know what check numbers are, and we don't have to wait 6 months to find out what we have to spend. So that's kind of where I'm at here, but we do need 2 new members. If I was to get elected, we're gonna need 3 members.
Another problem.
No, just kidding. But, last year, we done the stables. We, spent some money on, we had done this before on the commissary drain. And so we had, Sanford come in and do a new drain on the commissary because the water was seeping through the wall. I don't know if that's really worked. I don't know if anybody has checked that out, but.
It don't rain?
No rain. Okay, but we've got to preserve those buildings. So that was the reason spending the money down there. The stables, that's why Fort Clark was here, the cavalry. Yeah, it got really bad. It was a lot of money. Yes, it was a lot of money. But hopefully now that somebody will keep an eye on those type of things and it won't become a big issue like it has been in the past. And Sandy kind of hit on this. Randy and I, we spent some time back in June with Dan Sullivan. I thought everything had gotten done. I spent some more time with Randy and Mr. Lawrence last month.
Thursday.
Explain who Randy is.
Randy is the accountant for Fort Clark Springs. So anyhow, I did get figures this past week, and our records were off by $718.57. They owed it to us. I showed we had spent it, they showed we had. So that's a good thing. That makes me feel proud. But our funds right now, both counts, is $25,756.65. And I keep a pretty well detailed of where every penny goes, what building they're on, and I think that's very important, because this is y'all's money. It's not my money, it's not the preservation's money, it's y'all's money. So if anybody wants to look at these figures, you're more than welcome. If you want to see my spreadsheet, you're more than welcome, and I hope we get some new numbers.
Board, along those lines, Debbie and Randy and I were able to reconcile these accounts, and she is correct that there is some $25,756.65 that are available. However, there is required a transfer from the restricted fund to the Preservation Committee's account in the amount of $7,111.12, and I would ask you, it is in your packet, to review that and then at some point in time consider it, the transfer.
There's one more thing I would like to request of the board, and I personally think that these are the forts buildings that perhaps Philip, who is head of maintenance, should be the ones that signs off on these projects and okays the payment, the final payment. I would ask that y'all consider having him do that. I mean, I can look at something, I am not a construction worker, but these are the forts building. It shouldn't be somebody on this committee approving those final payments, I don't believe.
We've got some more discussion of this later on.
Okay.
Maybe that'll answer some of your problems.
Okay.
Let's do that. If you're saying that we can move money from the restricted fund into their fund, we cannot. That would be illegal, I believe.
I
That's okay. We can discuss it in. It'll be long and drawn out.
Okay.
Recreation Committee. The camera's right behind you if you want to just turn around.
Smile.
In the last week and a half, we've had 2 events On February 5th, we had a presentation by Mary Ellen on the Australian Outback. We had 92 people show up. We had cake and ice cream with that. And then last Monday, we had our first, hopefully, and annually, chili cook-off, like we used to do years back. We had 98 people there. They had 24 cookers, 5 judges, and the rest of the people. We had 98 people. So hopefully we can do that again. Nothing is scheduled for March. We got the Fort Clark Days, some other things coming up. So at this point, I don't have anything going for the rest of the year. But then again, there's only 2 of us.
Really?
You're working with Carol Ann, though.
Right?
You are working with Carol Ann,
Yes.
so that's 3 people right there.
But I'm not getting any money out of you guys. Yeah, you guys are helping with him.
You make the same money we do.
But, and I want to say, the chili cook-off was in conjunction with the RV park. You couldn't have happened with just 2 of us. So it was the RV park that did the major amount of work on it. I want that out there so people know.
Whoever did it, it was so well done that I really enjoyed myself.
Good.
Don't think I was the only one either.
No, it was wonderful.
It was.
It was absolutely, it went off without at least an apparent hitch. Lots of people ate a lot of food and carried it around in their shirts all day.
I didn't think you noticed that.
Standing there serving and watching it all
All right, recycling.
for later.
Are you there? Recycling?
And I know it's not looking, anyway. First thing I'd like to do today is ask everybody here who's volunteered for recycling in the past now to stand up for a minute, because every single one of you people deserves to keep They all deserve a big thank you. They give up their time and they get nothing but grief for it. So, and if any of the others of you would like to stick your hands in the fire, come join us. I was at the recycling center this morning training a new volunteer, Dee Smith. So, we appreciate the help. Now, to the people who bring recyclables, and I realize most of you here aren't the guilty parties, but would you pass it on to your friends and neighbors? No dirty Kleenex and mixed paper. That's about as gross as the dirty diapers San Antonio is dealing with. Secondly, look at the bottom of your plastics and make sure it's a number 1 or a number 2. And number 2 colored doesn't mean the color of the label that's wrapped around it. If it's opaque on the bottom, it's number 2 natural. Okay? And don't put cat food cans in the aluminum beverage cans. They are aluminum, we know that, but they're lined with Teflon so they can't go in with the aluminum. And no aluminum foil or pie plates or anything of that nature. We've had a lot of problem with things in the wrong bin. And my mover here is going to quit if you guys don't get it right. How's that, Bill?
Yeah, thank you.
No,
It's frustration.
the volunteers put in a lot of hard work. I mean, we take the number 1 plastic from the recycling center to the market, among other things. I mean, they do this all gratis, so please help them out any way you can. And as I said, please, I know you people aren't generally guilty, but spread the word out beyond this room. And other than that, we had a pickup in late January, right? Yeah, late January. And the place is filling up again rapidly.
Yeah, really.
We are going to we'll have another pickup in March. I don't have a current report on what Cardwood is doing, but I was happy to notice in the January, or the October to January, recycling has made over $5,000 since October. So our efforts, aside from saving the landfill, are bearing some serious financial fruit.
And if you know anybody in China who wants to buy our cardboard,
Which,
somebody in China wants to buy our cardboard, if you know them,
yes, yes, we've taken a hit on pricing because China won't buy plastics and metals from the U.S. anymore because they, quote, don't wish to be America's dump. I'll leave it to you to imagine how that got started. And I guess I might just as well stay here.
yes, I was going to suggest that.
Search and Certification Committee.
Do you and Dan want to finish that off? I'm about to disband the committee too, so
That, we will be grateful.
I think so.
Search and Certification Committee has completed its duties.
Yeah.
Monday's meeting to get the ballots prepared. I'm going to say 5 of us. There are 6, including our alternate, but there were 5 for part of the day. We finished at 5:45 at night. Anyway, it was a long day, but it's done. And the mailing committee situation went very smoothly. And I'll see you in a future year.
Diane may have something to join with.
I think I had my say earlier, and thank you to Judy and the committee, Search and Certification Committee, for putting in a long, hard day and getting the job done. And also to the mailing committee. We had 16 people on the mailing committee, not counting myself or Monique, who also participated. Mary Partlow stayed later after the rest were done to help finish the sealing and postage affixing. But everybody pitched in and just did a heck of a good job. So hats off and thank you to all of you.
Okay, you can go. Let me, I'm going to just reach down into action items. And the first one, A, is disband the Search and Certification Committee. Let's do that right now if we can. Does somebody have a motion?
I will move that the Search and Certification Committee for the 2018 election should be disbanded at this point.
What? Okay, I got Bill first, I'm sorry. All right, do we have any discussion? I just want to point out that this is the first year that the secretary hasn't been running for re-election himself or herself. So Dan did a heck of a job. Thank you.
Thank you. I was just running for my life. By the way, someone giving a report out there mentioned that a building from 1939 was old.
Don't you go there.
Really old.
Really old. Good year.
There are some of us who also share. Okay, we have no more discussion on this? All in favor? Thank you, motion passes. Okay, now I'm ready for the community council report.
Hi, Lisa Bale. Directors met to brainstorm this month, the coming year. We discussed improving communication with the members. Some of the ideas we've come up with is holding an open house, which hopefully we could get like all the clubs and committees to come to open to the membership, because there's been a lot of discussion, and I've heard a lot of things from people like, oh, I didn't know we had that, or things like that. So we've been looking for ways to kind of get the community together and to get all the different things that the fort offers available to everybody, and to hopefully get people more involved and find more volunteers. I think I stated that we passed our new bylaws and constitution in January. We've changed, we meet 4 times a year now, January, April, September, and November. That's our minimum. Depending on the season, we'll be meeting more often as we need to. The monthly movie is doing well. We had the Good Old Boys this month, and we had a really large attendance, a lot of new and different people. Next month is Homeward Bound, so that should be fun. And I think that's all I have on that, and then I have just a quick report on the Fort Clark Days.
Yes, go ahead on that.
Okay. The preparations are going well. There's 125 plus living historians, and I think there are still more signing up at this point. There's projected 800 plus students on Friday. I think they're looking for a few more volunteers for parking, traffic, or maybe for the museum also. The museum tours are filling up. To house everyone, we're looking for volunteers. People are having historians stay in their homes. Excuse me, because we just don't have enough place to put all that we have. So if anybody would like to have a living historian in their spare room, please see Allison. And there's also 5 to 6 food vendors depending on Friday or Saturday, so there'll be food. And I think that's all I have for that.
Go ahead.
Sir?
Lisa, could you remember also to maybe give a little push or arm twist for a volunteer from the community council for the preservation committee?
Yes, I was informed of that the other day.
I'm sure they'll really appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Well, I think we're going to have more later, but that's enough for now. Thank you. I so appreciate that you've taken over as president here on the community council. All right, we've taken care of A. We're moving on to B, and Dan, I believe you've taken that.
Thank you. I'd like to get a motion on the floor and then provide a little more detailed information regarding it to speak to it. The motion I'd like to make is that the board adopt a 10-year plan for repairs and upgrades to FCSA buildings and equipment as presented by the administration.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I would like to speak to that. This plan over a period of 10 years, and I won't go into the details on each issue because we'd be here all day, but the problem areas that would be addressed under this plan would be the NCO club, the motel. The motel really needs a lot of extensive upgrades and work. It would also include the RV park office, the administration offices, the stone walls. That's the drainage ditch down by the maintenance, across from the maintenance building, the fence out in front of the fort, the teen center, adult center, security concerns. Some of this is for equipment.